Yo, 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 all you beautiful lounge lizards out there. We appreciate you tuning in to this spectacular episode, or what will be a spectacular episode of the Logistics Lounge. Before we get into our guest here, we are going to talk about the new pilot acquisition that just went down, and then our main topic is going to be about a new insurance requirement bill that is in Congress right now. And we have an incredible set of people on our panel tonight. Mr. Allen over here has come from the insurance industry. JB down here, he is a carrier. And Mr. Leffler over here, who does a plethora of things, but his background is in law. Specifically, he does a lot pertaining around the logistics and transportation industry. So we're going to get his take on things as well. But before we do that, we're going to show some love to our sponsors. Lane Runner, lanerunner.com, newest rate platform out there. If you guys are using the three-letter monsters in any type of your business as a broker, carrier, even a shipper, you need to get away from them. You need real rates, accurate rates, all the time, every day, no problems. LaneRunner.com.
Welcome to the future of trucking with Lane Runner. Up to the minute, trustworthy spot market freight rates. Experience real-time, full truckload spot market rates at your fingertips. Stay ahead with our advanced rate alert system, ensuring you never miss a market move. Gain insights with our detailed high and low paying lane reports. Make informed decisions with comprehensive market reports tailored for your business needs. Lane Runner, accurate, real-time spot market freight rates at your fingertips. Efficiency, reliability, and profitability all in one platform. Join Lane Runner today and take your logistics to the next level. Spot market, spot on.
Man, I love that commercial. Jesse's making me another one. I was like, dude, that one's sick. Make me a sequel. Damn it, son. All right. Shoreline Capital. Once you go to Lane Runner and you start getting those correct rates, start piling in them dollar bills because you're winning all that money on them loads, you got to have somewhere to send those invoices to so you can collect that money quick, fast, and in a hurry. Shoreline Capital, they're going to take care of you. Got best rates in the industry. Clint said, give him a call day or night. He's going to be there, help you out. All right. Now, as always, y'all do business with either one of those folks, any of our sponsors. Make sure you tell them that you heard about it on the best podcast on the freaking planet, and that's the Logistics Lounge. Gentlemen, how are we doing today? We'll start JB. We'll start with you. How's your day, broski?
It's good. I'm on a 34-hour reset, just chilling. Sun's going down, so it'll be dark soon, but we'll be headed up to New York tomorrow.
Oh, nice. We're in New York.
Right around Utica.
Oh, sweet. Mr. Leffler, how are you doing today, my man? How's things going on your end of the spectrum?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing better than I deserve. My kids have gone back to school today. We had snow on Friday. School was canceled. We had too cold on Tuesday. And Wednesday is get out of the house. You have to go back to school. So it's been a great day. Oh, and the Apple thing gave me a thumbs up. Look at this go. It's like I'm a professional here.
Beautiful.
I feel like I just did an impulse buy.
Act now. Supplies are limited. Make the move today. Welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here.
That's a good one. Oh, Matt, you're an absolute treasure, man. I'm telling you, brother. Chris, how's your day, man? How's things going on for you?
I'm good. I work from home. I'm in Nevada, and we're in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm happy about it.
All right, we can take him off the show right now.
Absolutely, so jealous.
I love the snow. I love the cold. There's two seasons in transportation. There's the no start season, which is what we're in right now, and then you have the tires and AC repair season. So that's fast approaching. We all know it's coming. Get ready.
Oh yeah,
Hunter, Mr. Freight Hound.
Yes, sir.
What's cracking like
Man. It seems like everywhere in these lower 48 has a bit of snow in it, and it's been a pain in the ass since Monday. But oh no, good day. Did a little goofing around in the snow over here in Nashville, but Yeah, man. Rocking and rolling as usual. How about yourself, Pedro?
Good day, bro. Pulled a little customer on, then I'll start doing business with, man. Little produce thing, which usually I don't mess with produce people, but I don't know. These people are out of Texas, really cool little family and stuff. And I don't know. I actually just got a reminder in my calendar from beginning of last year. It said call this lady, and called her, and she's like, "Yeah, send me your stuff. Cool, whatever. We'll see." But other than that, man, just regular old stuff. Still trying to get this one load moved, man. Like, oh my God, I swear I can't give people enough money to take this damn load to where it needs to go because of the weather. Oh, it's just absolutely killing me. But other than that, doing okie dokie artichoke. Yes,
Love
sir.
it.
All right. We're going to do our quick little news segment here, and we will get into our main topic. Cannot wait to talk about this one, especially with all the people that we have involved here today. So all right, I just want to conclude on something that we have talked about here previously on the show. As of yesterday evening, and I may be pronouncing their name wrong, the Haslams, who are the family that started and owned Pilot Flying J, they have decided to sell their remaining 20%, or I should say, force Berkshire Hathaway to buy the remaining 20% of their brands. Pilot, everybody knows who they are, but I'll give rundown for some who may be watching who don't. They started out with one gas station 65 years ago by the founder, Haslam II, and they grew into a chain of truck stops across America that include the Flying J brand, which they acquired in 2010, and they opened their first truck stop in 1981. On to the Berkshire Hathaway thing. If y'all haven't been watching or paying attention to this, don't know what's going on, Pilot's relationship with Berkshire started in 2017 when Berkshire Hathaway approached them and they bought 38% of Pilot stock. That sale alone was worth $2.7 billion. And then a sale after that, they bought another 41% of Pilot. That one came in at $8.2 billion and also gave Berkshire majority control over the company. Now, the founding family, they've been holding on to the last little bit of it. The agreement they had made with Berkshire Hathaway is that they could keep up to 20% of it, and force, I guess, in a sense, kind of force Berkshire Hathaway to buy them out the rest of that remaining 20%. The issue here is that the Haslams accused Berkshire Hathaway of devaluing their stock, which therefore would lower the value of the sale. And although Warren Buffett had assured them at the time they started doing business that regardless of what was going on at the time, he would honor their agreement that he would pay them full value. So today's sale just concludes the final 20% that was left. And now Berkshire Hathaway owns 95% of the United States at this point.
This is fascinating. I mean, we saw BP come in and buy TA last year. So you can't run a modern trucking company without having deep relationships with the travel centers. And if you look at what's happened with Berkshire Hathaway, especially when we look at this Pilot Flying J, one of the investors of a company called Kodiak Robotics, the autonomous trucking company, is Pilot Flying J. They invested in this because what they see, and I know this is the fact, they see these travel centers as where the exchange between autonomous trucks and human drivers will take place. Human drivers will be doing stuff at the local DCs, warehouses, the city stuff, but that middle mile, that over the road, that's where the robots will take the handoff. You have to know about these travel centers. This is fascinating. It's Love's, it's these guys, and it's TA, and that's it. Those are the three big ones. So, wow, big deal. Berkshire also owns Extra Lease and Marmon Group and BNSF. Like, you can list off all the things. It's a lot of things.
Matt, you and I, man, both, I'm sure everybody here knows, and who knows the real number, Berkshire Hathaway has their hands in everything, including, I'm sure, several of the mega carriers or extreme carriers in this country. McLean, I know McLean is one of them. When I was there, Berkshire Hathaway had just bought them from Walmart. And if you don't know who McLean is, they are a 120-year-old company that delivers final mile to like Walmart, grocery store, or convenience stores for, I don't know, every state in the country. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy stuff, man. These people buy up everything they can, man. Anybody else? No? Yes, maybe. Comments?
Nah, bro.
I can talk forever. I got to keep myself quiet.
I know. You can talk all you want. All right, then fine. Hey, we're gonna just go ahead and freaking move on. So, hey, that's all we need to say. All right, to the main topic. This one comes from overdrive.com. This is where or overdriveonline.com. Congress has a bill, or there's a bill in Congress that is talking about raising the minimum requirement for liability insurance for interstate motor carriers from $750,000 to $5 million. The bill is introduced by Representatives Jesus Chuy Garcia, Democrat of Illinois, and Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia. Their premise behind this is basically they want carriers to have this extreme amount of coverage due to the crashes that have happened, last several years, the ones that have killed several people, injured several people, caused just extensive damage to property. And the policy that carriers have, that's just $1 million, sometimes does not even make a dent in what the damage really was financially. So here is that. Who wants to start on their take on this?
This will never pass. This will never pass. Now, I would love to see this pass. $750,000 was established in 1980. If you adjust that to inflation, it's like $2 or $3 million. You can't even replace someone's hip for $750,000, but it makes trucking more expensive. And that's one of the few things when the ATA and OIDA agree on something, it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. But I would love to see insurance limits raised for motor carriers. And I know that's very unpopular, but I have so many stories that'll break your heart about when someone is in a catastrophic accident and they can't be made whole. They can't get their bills covered because the motor carrier has the bare minimum and go bankrupt. I love this topic. I love it. Bodacious Cowboy.
What up, Jeff?
Hey, the only reason why I joined this is because I hate lawyers.
Hold on. Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
I agree.
How
I
you
hate 'em already.
doing, Matthew?
What? What? Lawyers
this is-
make the world work.
Yeah, this is the armchair lawyer. This is saying.
No, I think it's more interesting to join a podcast and just listen to a lawyer chat. That's all. I mean, you learn a lot of things.
Hey, when it comes to Matt, I'll tell you, I'm not a fan of lawyers either, but Matt is. Man, when Hunter said you were going to come on, I was like, oh hell yeah! Like I don't know anything about law, but like I just love hearing about how things work, especially stuff that people don't understand. Like
I'm a supply chain guy who happens to be a lawyer. That's how I would characterize my
Who just loves arbitration.
Who doesn't love a forced arbitration clause? We don't need to do this in public. We're going to do it in binding arbitration. It's confidential. So when I screw you, you're not going to tell anybody.
Can I ask Jeff a question before we move forward?
Yeah.
Jeff, you've been you drove for a few years, right?
Who, me? No. Me behind a wheel? No, that's not a good idea.
For how long?
About 6-8 months.
That's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that knowledge base of what they go through each and every day. I didn't want to get pigeonholed in any one area, so I wanted to build that knowledge base. So, because I knew this was going to be my career, so I wanted to know how each other works on each side of the fence, if that makes any sense.
Sure. The what I was going to get at, before 1980, the liability was only 100,000. So I can imagine that this is the same conversation they had 40 years ago when they took it from 100,000 up to 750.
Yeah, I mean, I started right before deregulation, if I believe so, and Matt will definitely correct me. It was during the Carter administration, late June, July in 1980 when the act was signed, and I started in February of 1980. So I'm almost in my 44th year. Ask me how I made it. I don't know. I still got hair on my head, so I must have did something freaking right.
But before anyone else chimes in, Matt, I really want you to expand on your saying that you're for the requirements being raised, and obviously you have a positive twist to this, man. So this is part of the reason I brought you on, is because you do have a wide view on stuff. So please elaborate.
Yeah, let me kind of break it down a little bit in a way that hopefully kind of makes sense. So insurance has two things to it. There's two components to an insurance policy. There's this thing called the duty to defend, which is we are going to pay for the lawyer to step into court and protect you. And then there's a thing called the duty to indemnify, and that's the duty of paying somebody. And so what happens in catastrophic accidents, and you can look at the research from ATRI or others that say, here's what verdicts are looking like these days. What really is the reality is, if you get into a catastrophic accident and that motor carrier has the bare minimum $750,000, that doesn't replace a life, and you can't replace a life. But in law, in civil litigation, you get money. You go after money. And so what ends up happening in horrifying situations is the insurance company says, yeah, I'll defend you. And heck, I'll turn over the whole policy. I'm done. You deal with it. And so the motor carrier is likely going to go bankrupt. They're going to sell all their assets. But that person who was injured, that person who's lost a leg, lost an arm, paralyzed, whatever, what do they do? Who do they sue? They go after the broker. And in some cases, you can get money from the broker, though it's increasingly rare. Or they go on assistance from the government. They get on Medicaid, they get on disability because they can't work anymore. So us as taxpayers are paying for people who have been injured by some other entity. So what I look at when it comes to liability in the trucking industry, if you just looked at benchmarking the number to inflation, it would have considerably more coverage. Every defense attorney that I know who represents insurance companies and motor carriers say it is hard because at the end of the day, I know it's expensive to get more policy. I know it's expensive, but for us to make the victims of these accidents whole, you need money, you need insurance. And that is one of the important filters we have in the business. And I'll just end with one last thing. We have very dangerous roads. We have 1 in 5 commercial vehicles that fail international road checks. So we're not caring about safety. We're not caring about the condition you get home in. So when I look at the idea of raising insurance rates for motor carriers, will that put a lot of people out of business? Probably. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. But what I do know is when you're in a catastrophic accident and you're talking to the family of the person who was injured, and you're trying to help them recover, there's nothing left. And so we see someone like Werner who gets hit for $100 million, but they're $10 million self-insured. Of that is the their own umbrella policy. So for me, I look at this and say, we know the right answer. The right answer is if you're going to drive a truck and you have the capacity to do crazy amounts of injury and damage, you should insure that risk. I had a maintenance company. I had 100 mechanics, 40 service trucks. I had $1 million liability policy and a $4 million umbrella policy. And I get it. It's tough, but that's the expectation we should have for our industry. It should be safer and it should have more insurance. But when OIDA and the ATA agree on something, ain't nothing going to change that. Nothing's going to change that.
JB, I want your opinion on this, man, as obviously as a carrier out there, dude. Even though you've said, hey, your insurance costs are pretty good because of the reputation your company has and the safety scores and all that stuff. What is your take on it, man? What do you think this could do to carriers, not just on the financial side, but people exiting, maybe capacity? I don't know. What's your take?
I mean, it's a negative impact to trucking altogether. I mean, you talk about Warner and myself are not the same. So, if somebody gets injured by me, go through court and sue me, yeah, I'm going out of business. But then you're also, on top of that, like you said earlier, they're probably going to go on disability and assistance from the government. Well, we pay for that. Well, then I'm no longer going to pay for that because I'm going to be out of a job. And then I go back to I pump out a lot of money. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily me, for example, but other owner-operators like myself pump out a lot of money in taxes every year. So I see it as more of just a cash grab. I mean, you hear all these, it would be different if, let's say, for example, because I'm kind of I'm just a moron truck driver in a sense, but it's not the same for them, a four-wheeler, to a trucker. Where's their extra insurance coverage for hitting me? If they hit me and do enough damage to me, their policy only goes to so much. It ain't going to replace a semi-truck, So what? Come on now. It's got to be somewhat fair across the board. Now, I get it with you see Warner and Swift and all these big mega carriers that are self-insured. I ain't self-insured. You got to have a few $1 million just to be self-insured. So,
Correct.
I don't like the fact that it's going to jump my rate through the roof. and then I got to pay for it and possibly go out of business. Well, there goes your tax dollars. There goes your revenue. So I think it's more just a cash grab. But it hasn't passed. I think, how many times have they tried to approach this and it's failed?
Every time.
Every time. So,
since 1980,
I don't
they
think
haven't
it's going to
ever
happen.
succeeded. It won't happen. But this is a good conversation. Like, it's important for people in the motoring public to know, like, the limits of a motor carrier for having insurance is not that substantial. $750,000 is nothing. It does not take care of a knee surgery. It barely covers a hip replacement. Like, it is expensive. And the injuries we have are substantial. Even if you damage a big commercial vehicle, like replacing an ICC bumper on a trailer ain't the end of the world. Like, that's probably worst case scenario for being rear-ended. Smashing the fenders or smashing the headlight, that can be expensive. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't like the outcome, but it's either going to be this or we have more brokers that are on the hook for liability. And that's
right.
another.
But where
challenge.
do you? How do I'm trying to say this without sounding like a complete asshole to other people? But where do you draw the line? Because it's already proven in studies that majority of the accidents involving trucks are caused by the four-wheelers, the people in cars. So they're causing majority of the accidents that are putting us in harm's way. They cause us to flip, roll over, have to lock down the brakes, jackknife, get cut off in traffic, and then we end up causing more chaos because one of them did it. Now, you have several instances where, like, I think there was an instance where an RV blew a tire, broke through the Jersey wall, went into oncoming traffic, and their truck hit them.
Yeah.
And they're trying to blame Warner for it.
And they won.
But
That was
the
$100 million
person-
verdict. That's right. You're right.
Yeah. But they're trying to get money from somebody because everybody died. Like, I get somebody died, but if that were me, you're ruining my life. You know what I'm saying? And I did nothing wrong except do my job.
That
If you
Werner
replace the
case.
roles.
I could just expand this because I want people who are watching this to kind of understand that Werner case. That Werner case is a driver who had 7 days of experience. His trainer was asleep in the back. He's driving under the posted speed limit. Everything was mechanically sound on the truck and the trailer, but another vehicle on the other side of the traffic lost control, crossed the center line, and collided head on. One dead child, one paralyzed child. The mistake that Werner did, in my opinion, was going to trial with that. Like, you never, ever, ever go to trial with a dead child, ever. But they did, and they lost. But to your point, like, how do you insure that risk? But that's the fundamental question. There is this risk. If the motoring public, if the four-wheeler is responsible for the accident, you as a motor carrier could still be held responsible under some joint and several liability kind of framework. So the reality for me is we know the risk is there. So if we're going to insure the risk, we're going to choose not to insure the risk. And if you're going to choose not to insure the risk, that means that someone who is injured legitimately from the actions of a motor carrier is not going to be made whole. And that's really not, I think, an appropriate response. I think if someone's responsible for the injuries, they ought to pay the full amount. And if they can't because they chose not to insure themselves properly, that's an issue. But dude, JB, I understand. Like, I know this won't succeed. This act in Congress, it's not going to happen, in my opinion. But I do understand the need for someone to evaluate this, holistically.
Yeah, because like it's a shame that everybody died and the kids are left injured and whatnot. But then that's where the government steps in and takes care of them. This shouldn't be an issue where it went to court. Period. If you want to blame somebody, the tire blew out. Go blame the tire manufacturer.
And they do. They'll sue everybody. But Michael's question here is really interesting.
But taking it out on, like, I get the driver was new, and I remember that I think they ended up firing the co-driver that was a trainee or whatever that was training him. But let me say, they were trying to blame him for it as well. Like, but he couldn't have done nothing.
Yeah,
even if he was in the passenger seat.
It was the way they did it was they showed a pattern in practice of Werner being careless. Yeah. But that's an interesting story. But let me answer Michael's question here. So Michael's question essentially is, okay, the insurance policy goes to this amount. What happens with the delta above the insurance that you're required to pay? The answer is you're on the hook for everything. So in my past life as a plaintiff attorney, I've done plaintiff and defense. What do? I sue you. I get every little ounce of your insurance. And then I go, okay, what else do you have? You can protect your 401k for me, but you can't protect your car or your house or your anything else that you want to have. And so we would lien everything and we would liquidate everything and we'd force you into bankruptcy. And then you'd be stuck paying bankruptcy fees for the next 7 years. So there is, just because the policy's maxed out, the individual company is still on the hook for everything above the insurance amount. Indy Trucker.
What's going on, yo?
Indy Trucker.
What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
Getting a little fuel up here in the Buckeye State. It's I'm no longer in Florida. It is back to winter weather.
Sorry to hear that.
Where are you going?
New York, not all the way to Buffalo. I'm going up to Dunkirk.
Okay.
Trying to find a place here I can sit here. I need a tripod. I need one of those like live action. Oh, look here. This is like a live view. You can see what I'm doing here.
Fantastic.
Hey, Chris.
Better cover that PIN code, bro.
Chris, we're going to go to you next, man. Since you're the insurance guy, I have the question that I know everybody wants an answer to. After we watch him shove cards into fuel pumps like none of us have ever done it before. Hey, don't forget your rewards card.
Only the best in quality entertainment from the road.
All right. Hey,
I was
Chris.
just shoving it in the tank.
Yeah.
Don't put the DEF in the diesel. That's a big no-no. It's party foul.
You should be in the diesel aisle, man. The regular unleaded pumps are around front.
I know, right?
Hey, Chris, here is obviously I know the biggest concern with everyone is cost. Now, obviously, I know you can't like run a quote or whatever, but what would your projections on how much this can elevate the cost of insurance for carriers? We're talking double, triple. What do you think it could come to?
You asking me? Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
I was on the other line for a second. I don't know. I wasn't in that capacity in the insurance agency, but I'm kind of, leaning with Matt a little bit, as I know it's going to be ridiculously expensive and it's a bad idea, but I believe it's a necessity that they do something, and I'm hopeful that if it does, I feel like insurance companies, $1 million liability is nothing to them. They'll underwrite policies without checking out carriers and making sure that they're safe and they're operating like they should. I don't know, maybe a higher limit will change how they underwrite carriers and make it a little harder to bring in, to get into the industry. I mean, it's been very easy to become a trucker since 1980, right? I mean, that was the whole point. Yeah, so I don't know that it's a bad idea, but I don't know if that'll help. And is it gonna make is safety going to be better to a point where they can reduce rates because they're not paying out?
I think the conversation has to be with shippers about what it actually costs to do what we do. To move freight safely, on time, and undamaged is one of the most dangerous jobs in this country. And it has been one of the most dangerous jobs for decades. But the reality is, like, what we might see as like the increase of the rate, it could be double. I mean, to get $1 million policy, to Christopher's point, that's not the end of the world. To get a $4 million umbrella policy on top of that or something else, it could be a substantial increase. But shippers have to understand this, because we're going to come knocking on their door next. Like, you're not immune from the way this market behaves. And if you're a trucker and you could face $100 million as a liability for doing nothing wrong, something's got to give. So I don't know.
And every other mode of transporting freight, it's much more expensive for the insurance side of those industries, and they have a much cleaner safety record, because they know that it's a lot of money if they don't do it right. So I don't know where the sweet spot is for getting safety under control and not making it,
I use this
for carriers.
I say this in a somewhat joking manner, but in the world of transportation, safety and maintenance compete to see who matters less compared to operations. Like, that is the mentality we've had. And to the point of like what the after effects of deregulation was, the explosion of motor carriers, the lowering of safety standards, the lowering of maintenance quality, and a lower of driver compensation. Like, there's a lot of after effects, but those were features of deregulation. They weren't the bugs that we're trying to solve today. But I do look at this and say, this is a win for the insurance industry. And I guaranteed they're lobbying heavily, like, yeah, we'd love to have more money. But for the big trade groups, like the fact that ATA and OIDA are both on the same page saying, we don't want this to happen. I mean, if those two are aligned, nothing changes. And I think we're going to see the same thing. Nothing will change unless motor carriers or shippers start saying, we want to have more liability. But that's the whole purpose of keeping rates low, is everyone's cost to enter is so low, you can just keep throwing more meat in the grinder.
Yeah, you see what happens, though, especially in the soft market, and I know you'll agree with this, Matt, is that a very good friend of mine said, in this market, in regards to how much the carriers and drivers are making, they're one breakdown away from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And so what happens when that happens, when they're not making enough? Safety is not going to be an issue anymore. Maintenance is going to be a huge impact because they're not going to have the additional funds in order to properly maintain their vehicle, putting the public more at risk. I mean, it just goes with the territory. I don't care what you say or how you say it. These guys are pushing it to the limits more than they've ever had before. And when I go past a truck, I mean, I've been in the business for a long time. I want to get the hell away from it as fast as possible because anything can happen. You know, they don't do the post checks. They don't do the pre-checks anymore. They don't care because they don't get paid for their time to do so. But they don't realize this. And I know it is a fact that, yeah, they're saying that they're taking money away from them. But guess what? Most of these drivers out there have families. They have wives. They have children. What that tells me is that they're ignorant about, hey, you know what? I'm a provider for my family. I don't mean anything. They're putting themselves at risk. They're putting so many people at risk. I don't understand it. I don't think anybody here is a psychologist that could answer that question properly.
I look at, like, I'm on the road next to Pitt, Ohio or Old Dominion. I feel fine. Like, I know.
Yes.
I know those guys know exactly what they're doing. But
absolutely,
as you've outlined, is like, we all want everyone to get home in the same condition that they left it. That's the whole goal of everything that we do. And when we look at the numbers, we look at the statistics, you're like, man, this job is dangerous. The margins are nothing. There's so much regulation. Where is the respite? We're going to have a speed regulator for everybody. You're all going to take your trucks to the local Kenworth or your local Volvo dealer and say, can you slow my truck down because the Johnny Law says I have to? And
that's going to make things
nightmare
worse.
to be in this business.
It's going to make it worse.
Absolutely.
Put your products on the train. I mean, when you think about the degradation in service going slower, you're not going to make the published transit times by any means. So why not go green, put it on IMDL, save everybody some time and maybe lives.
and the speed regulators, it's going to mean drivers make less money. That's the whole idea. I mean, it's going to mean you're going to go slower. It's going to take longer to go where you want to go. You can't work as much. That's the nature of this. But like the insurance
it's going to make us
like,
break the rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not going to prevent us from making less money. We're just going to break the rules.
No,
absolutely.
Unless your truck is,
that.
unless they show, you can program a truck and make it. It can't go faster than the speed you program it for. So like, even if you want to go faster, you ain't going to go faster because it'll stop it. I had an exchange with somebody on Twitter the other day, and I call it Twitter. I don't call it X because it's still the Sears Tower to me. Don't tell me it's something different. And they were really antagonistic about my position on the insurance stuff. And like, the reality is, I see both sides. I see the value of keeping costs low. For truck drivers, your costs are very easy to understand. It's fuel, it's labor, it's assets, it's maintenance, it's tires, it's insurance. Like, those are the things you spend your money on. But at the end of the day, as a lawyer, I just want to make sure that everyone who's actually responsible for paying something has the money to do it. And very few people self-insure, except for mega carriers. So at the end of the day, it has to be policies. I bet you smart motor carriers can sell that value prop to their brokers and to their shippers at some point. It ain't happening in this market. Oh, you should give it to me because I have so much insurance. Like, no, how cheap can you go? That's good.
That's the question.
I love this inspection. I love this.
What? Let me ask you something as a lawyer, real quick. Because like, look, I'm a heavy guy. If I keep putting Twinkies in my mouth, I'm only going to get bigger and eventually die of heart disease or something.
I hope not.
But where's the accountability for just regular people? Like, just like all the truck drivers, I think Chris said it. Most truck drivers are on the verge of bankrupt, right?
Yep.
That's their fault, 100%. That's nothing to do with anybody else. It's poor decisions out here. Same thing when I mess up, it's my poor decisions. What can regular people do to ensure themselves in case something like this happens.
Yeah,
Because where does personal accountability come into play?
A lot of companies and insurance providers are now giving what they call uninsured motorist coverage. So what that uninsured coverage really actually means, like legally, is if there's an insurance amount that needs to be paid and the other party can't solve it, you can tag into that thing. So many insurance products will have baked into it some form of insurance that can cover if the other party doesn't have enough. Now, it's optional in some states, it's mandatory in other states, but you're exactly right. We live in the most distracted society that has ever existed. We all have supercomputers in our pockets that say, you should look at me right now. It's like, I don't want to, but I kind of need to check those messages. So I don't know the answer to that, JB. I don't know. I think there is some personal accountability we kind of look at, but the motoring public, like the average person, just imagine the average motoring public person and realize that half of them are worse than that. That's terrifying.
That's horrible. That's horrendous.
Right, but we're safer than they are, and they account for more of the accidents. Granted, they're probably a larger base, but all the statistics point at if a trucker's involved in an accident, it's their fault. So it just needs to die with it being their fault. And I'll be honest with you, whatever happens to you, happens to you. I'm sorry.
Hey, I want to touch on what you're saying, man, because you had said this earlier as well. And to sum it up is why it's the carriers, always the carriers. Yeah. And it's because you're easy targets, bro.
100%.
And the reason you're easy targets is because in the business that you're in, then they make a rule like this. You have one of two options: comply or shut your fucking doors and find a new job.
That's same with ELDs,
100%.
man. Same thing.
Yeah, yes, EL, exactly. And it is, man. I'm telling you, you're an easy target. And that sounds crappy, man. But and I'll tell you, and I don't know who all can agree with this, but man, when it comes to the government, they are not in the interest for you as the carrier. They have no reason to do something for you, and it's you're an easy target. And also, I think brokers are easy. This whole industry, I'll just say that this whole industry,
I would say to Bill, if I'd say it's not necessarily the motor carriers, because ATA has great representation. Like, don't think for a minute that the ATA doesn't have incredible voices within Congress. Who they're actually against is the truck driver. Like, that's who they're against. Like, that's the ATA. Like, I look back at the numbers and they're staggering. You're talking the last time I was on the show. The average comp for a truck driver back in 1980 was $38,000. Adjust that for inflation, $120,000. What do truck drivers make today? Not that. 60% of truck drivers in 1980 were unionized. 60%. What's that number today? Ain't 60. We just saw the biggest one ever, Yellow, after 99 years. 99 years. Before there were highways, before there was containers, gone. So this industry, it's going in one very clear direction, and it's not in the driver's favor. And it hasn't been that way for many, many decades.
And Jay, to expand on what you're saying about the four-wheelers, man, dude, I never was this way till I got my CDL, and I'll tell you, having your CDL, man, it opens your mind to being out there on the roads and the things that like matter, being behind the wheel of anything, man. But my point is I've always said, kind of like what Jeff did, man. These people that get their licenses, it should be a little bit more strenuous of a process for them to get this thing. Maybe not a CDL holder's test, but damn close to it. And because now, man, there's states now, even here in Texas, once you turn a certain age of 18 or 20 or whatever, you just walk in and get your license. You've not driven a day in your fucking life. You pass the test. Here you go.
I think that's everywhere, dude, because I know it's that way in Georgia and it's that way in Tennessee. You turn 18. Here you go.
Hey, congratulations. Here's your license. Go kill someone.
Most states, like the limit for insurance is like $100,000 for most motoring people. Some states, it's even less. Sometimes it's $300,000. But you're exactly right. We don't actually carry the insurance that we need or the requisite testing for any of the stuff that we do. People look at driving a car as a fundamental right. And like, I'll do whatever it takes.
Right. Right. When you talk about responsibility and accountability, let's talk about the shipper and the responsibility they have, right? So they go out and they get a carrier. The carrier comes in, and we're talking about, pre-checks, inspections, and post-check inspections. I always took the stance that I hired that carrier. Before I load that carrier, I'm having my dock supervisor walk around that trailer and inspect the trailer for bald tires, like improper hinges on the doors, canisters in the back hanging off, something not really working with the airline brakes, et cetera, because let me put it this way. If I dispatch that trailer and load it and it goes on the highway and it's got my brand and reputation in that truck and I kill somebody, I can't live with myself. I don't want my company being connected with that at all. Period. End of discussion. Because just imagine that. It falls back on you. Well, why did you, and I'd love to get Matt's opinion on this. Why did you load that trailer? Why didn't you inspect that trailer? You hired that trailer. You loaded that trailer. It had 3 bald tires on it, and that trailer flipped over and killed a family of 4. Hello, Mr. Shipper.
The entire story of the manufacturers in the United States, or shippers as we call them, is about how do I limit my liability? That's been the only thing we care about. So, like, why do you have someone like Costco, a big retailer, hire C.H. Robinson, and then C.H. Robinson hire an owner-operator? Because what Costco wants is for Costco to never be responsible for anything that happens with the movement of goods. That's the whole purpose. Now, there we can disagree as to why if that's a good idea or not a good idea. But yeah, the shippers out there, they will intentionally not even look at the assets. I mean, maybe the dock worker might say, "Hey, there's a hole in the roof," and they go, "Okay, call a vendor, we'll take a look." But that's the whole purpose of how these arm's length transactions, indemnification provisions, arbitration provisions, so that ultimately, if you're a shipper and something catastrophic happens, you say, "Oh, I have to reship that same load? That sucks. We'll do it again tomorrow." But that's the nature of the business. It's limitation of liability, arm's length transactions.
It's ridiculous.
And it's always the trucker who suffers. To JB, it's always the trucker who suffers. Brokers can be held responsible occasionally. It's very, very, very
it's more difficult.
But for truckers, like, absolutely. Like, Werner's a great example. Like that Werner case we talked about. Everyone should know about this case. The driver of the four-wheeler, that driver was held less than 20% responsible for that accident. The driver for Werner was held less than 20% responsible for that accident. Werner Enterprises, the motor carrier, was held 70% responsible. 70%. And you're like, what jury would return that verdict? It doesn't matter, because that's what the risk that you face. It's just bonkers, man. It's crazy.
It's just because it's a Sarah McLachlan commercial, except it's a child.
That's what it is. I mean, that
right.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No money's going to bring them back. I don't care if you got $1 billion coverage. You're not going to bring that child back. Who would want to live with that?
Okay, imagine I'm the plaintiff attorney for the family that lost somebody. I'd say, look, members of the jury, I want to tell you something. We can't bring anyone back from the dead. We can't help that family cope with the fact that they're never going to meet that grandchild that's never going to be born. But what we can do is we can send a message. We can send a message to the industry that if you're going to take shortcuts, and you see how this goes, you see how it goes. And that's why you never go to trial in those situations. And now the case is going to appeal to the Texas Supreme Court. Maybe it stands, maybe it doesn't. But I know of motor carriers who will not go into Texas because of that case. Because they're like, if I do everything right, I'm still on the hook for that crazy amount of liability. Wild.
Yeah, but those cases set precedents, don't they? I mean, in any other state that they can reflect upon that ruling and use that as a judgment.
They use it as persuasive authority. So it's not authority that binds you. You say, well, look what they did. And you go, maybe. So it doesn't actually bind other states around them. It will bind Texas. Like if you are driving home from work in Texas and some other Yahoo crosses the line, smashes into you, and they say, if you were just driving slower, it would have been a less of a substantial accident. You might be on the hook. It's interesting. That's why I like being a lawyer. I get to look at things and go, like, that's weird.
That's why I hate lawyers.
That's all it is. Can of worms. Hey, I want to talk. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead, brother.
I was just saying, going back to like the shipper responsibility. I mean, there's been plenty of times where shippers put late fees on stuff. So you're trying to get there in time so you don't get charged extra money. You've got, all right, well, I'm out of hours, but my company won't let me PC. And, well, you can't stay here. You got to get off this property. I totally disagree with some of those things. There shouldn't be late fees. There shouldn't be, you should have. I think that facilities like that should have adequate parking for people.
Oh my gosh,
overnights.
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? When you're out of
Absolutely.
hours, because you push them out, then they wreck. Kind of on you as well. Now that you did that.
I know exactly where you're going with this. You're talking about big box dealers, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Happens all the time. You know what? And then they'll have chargebacks and all different kinds of stuff for you. Or if you're even 5 minutes late, they have a thing called MAB, must arrive by date or time. And if you're not there within 5 minutes of that specific time, and God forbid if you come in 15 minutes earlier, they won't let you
get
park
charged
there.
too.
Yeah, they won't park. You can't park there. You got to go down the street. You got to find a parking area and sit there. And then you got to get in line with all the other carriers that are trying to get in there. But you have to be there at 11. But you've got 10 trucks in front of you. You get in there at 11:07, they're turning you away.
Hey, I'm like, this is, even though it kind of trailed off from the insurance thing, I actually kind of like this because Matt was saying something earlier. I can't remember what it was, but this popped into my head. And I think everyone's familiar with this, but talking on the shipper part specifically, I don't know if it's federal, but I know here in Texas that if I am a facility that serves alcohol and I serve Chris way more than I know he needs, and he leaves here and splatters someone's family all over I-35 here in Texas, not only is they're going to say, screw Chris, I'm going after this business owner.
Yeah.
That's facts, man. The ABC don't play around.
Yeah, they got the same thing in New Jersey.
Those are called dram shop laws, and they're in every single state. It's when you serve somebody who's visibly intoxicated, you can be held responsible for serving that person.
Absolutely.
Visibly intoxicated. That is an interesting parallel, Pedro. I love that analogy. Not a chance in the world. Not a chance in the world. The way that they're going to look at it and go, no, I'm a business. You're a business. The way that these deals are structured, like why owner operators, the way that how they're treated is we say you're just as sophisticated as FedEx Ground. You're just as sophisticated as Costco or Target or Meijer. And you're like, I don't have a lawyer on retainer. Yeah, we have 10. We have 15. Like we're the same. But there is absolutely no way, as far as I could tell, that you could have something like that happen. Though, in fairness, I bet you claims are made that way all the time. Because if someone doesn't have the insurance, you're going to say, well, who else does? Like that case in C.H. Robinson versus Miller, which was the California one where they found the broker could be responsible.
Just talked about that. Talked about that the other day.
That's that F4A preemption. We have the Global Trans VE case, which was declined by the Supreme Court, but that same idea, but just different outcomes. But the idea, it's fascinating.
You're going to have to talk about that one. We talked about that with Jeff on the show, and the first thing he said, he's like, "You got Matt would love this because like, I was like, man, I don't know the legal jargon, and Jeff goes, Matt would."
It's a fascinating case, but it's idea like what you're trying to do as a plaintiff attorney is say, who has the money? Who's got money? And it's the broker, maybe. Is it the shipper? Maybe. I'll sue them all, and then they can come and we can fight about it. We can talk about it.
Do you agree? Do you agree with that, Matt? Like, even though I used the parallel, which I was trying to use more towards the shipper, like overloading a truck or whatever, and that being part of the cause of the accident. But how do you feel about brokers being held responsible? Because me as a broker, like I'll tell you, we go through where I work an extensive process to vet care. We check safety inspections, everything that we can, but at the end of the day, they could be a 20-year-old company but have Ricky Bobby who's been driving for 6 months behind the wheel of that truck. And I just don't see how I am at fault for I don't know. What is your take on it?
So I have several takes, but the main take I'll say is if you're a broker, you should carry insurance regardless of whether you think you're going to be held liable or not. Like you should be on top of your game. I know tons of brokers are like, I can't be held responsible. I'm like,
oh yeah,
you have insurance? I go, no. I'm like, oh, you're doomed. But
you're dead.
So I'll tell you this way. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, that's the one that heard the Miller case where they basically said, Robinson, you're on the hook. And the Ninth Circuit said, Sure, maybe they are. And the global trans case of the Seventh Circuit, that's Illinois and Indiana and Wisconsin, and they said, can the broker be held responsible? And they said, no, they can't. I generally support the idea that brokers can be held responsible for negligently hiring the wrong motor carrier. If you have a process and you don't do the process and something happens, I think it's reasonable. And I don't like the idea of a blanket ban saying you can't do this. So in the way the F4A law is written, there's this thing called the safety exception. And negligence claims, like saying this person did something that was dangerous and hurt somebody, that's part of the safety exemption. Now we have, and this is not to be controversial, the most conservative Supreme Court that we have had in over 100 years. It's a very conservative court. If F4A gets in front of them and they take it on, they will go the Seventh Circuit route. They will say there is no broker liability. And what that tells me is that brokers will be incentivized to use more dangerous motor carriers because they're off the hook now.
That's wrong.
Hey, hold on, Jeff, before you get on it. So, Matt, I mean, obviously you can't give a definitive answer from this, but like you're going to give a good opinion. So you talk about, us having a process, and if you don't follow it, hey, you could be held liable, but that could open up another can of worms. Is okay, who says what process is the exact one you got to follow, and where I mean, and as a lawyer, brother, I respect you, Matt, I do, but everyone's got opinion lawyers. It's like, hey, some lawyer is going to find a way to twist this.
Absolutely. There is no process that is perfect. That's the thing. Like you can say, well, I use Highway, I use Carrier Assure, I use Carrier 411. I vet everybody. I call their mother and I say, what's your maiden name? And I do all the things. There is no defined process that is considered enough. And that's one of the reasons why the brokers have so viciously fought against broker liability, because we did our best. What ends up happening, though, it goes back to that initial thing we talked about earlier about insurance. If I know the motor carrier cannot make my person who's died whole, who else can? The broker can. Broker can. I'm going to go after you guys. And ultimately, in some cases, you're going to be successful. Others, you're not. At the end of the day, until the Supreme Court takes this case up, which they won't do, they didn't take Global Trans, they didn't take Miller, we'll continue to say, which circuit are we in? Which court rule are we going to apply? I love it.
Interesting.
Great question. I love that.
I like it.
Yeah.
Here's the other part of the main topic of the show that I wanted to touch on, since we got some brokers on here as well, and get y'all's opinion on it. So in this industry, to me the standard is you have to have insurance as a broker. Like, to me, no shipper I've ever talked to, they're not going to do business with you if you don't have that. And it's exactly to Matt's point. It adds layers of risk mitigation and furthers their distance away from taking blame. But my point is my insurance as a broker, the minimum standard for us is to mirror exactly what a carrier has with maybe some E&O on it, or some G&L, for our property reasons. Yeah. But to me, this is going to be something that, although it'll be with the carriers, the brokers are going to have to do this. Like, it's going to be an inevitable evolution of us having to as well step up and mirror those insurance costs, the 2 million, 5 million, whatever it is. And I mean, what do y'all think? I really think that is what is going to say, as the saying goes, shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. The big brokers already have it. Like, the big brokers pay a lot of money for great insurance.
A lot of money.
That's just the cost of doing business. When you're small, you don't really have the bandwidth or the margin to have those things. They're like, it'd be nice to have insurance, but I don't think I need it right now. Every broker has cargo, it has some level of insurance, but like to have general liability policies, like it's somewhat rare.
Yeah, we have 2.5 million. I think the lowest, we got a ton of insurance, man. Oh my God, dude. We've got so much. We got insurance coverages I've never even freaking heard of before. But our G&L is like 2, our cargo is like 2.5, our liability is like 2.5, and then we have another couple $1 million umbrella policy. So, but again, we're attached to a larger entity who they have that money to fork out and stuff. And let me ask you this one, Matt. So, if they make this requirement, this passes, obviously it'll be the carriers will have to do it under their liability. Okay, so me as a broker, would I want to add my liability and match that, or would it be better for me to do an umbrella policy or a filler policy or whatever you want to call it to make up that extra?
I would say never buy something that no one's requiring you to buy. So if you already have your policies, I don't think there's a need to like, oh, we should get more. It's like, if they're going to force the truckers to get it, the thing I would be thinking as a broker is, I'm probably going to have to pay more for capacity now. And I'm probably going to go back to my shipper and say, hey, shipper, you have no idea what it's like to be a truck driver. But let me tell you a quick story. There's a new law that says they have to have more insurance and they're going to cost more. And that's a conversation that I think is very useful and worth having with with your shipper customers. But I wouldn't buy anything if you don't need to buy anything extra.
No, and that's one of the reasons, Matt, that brokers must ask the value of the shipment that they're pushing. If it's over 100,000, if that's your cap, then you can buy the PIP. The additional liability coverage in case something happens to go awry. So that way you got that merchandise, but then that falls back on them. Hey, you know what? I had to charge you $1,000, but since the stuff I'm moving is 2.5 million. I have $100,000. I've got to go and up that by 2.4. So instead of 1,000, I'm going to have to charge you 1,900.
Exactly. It's another conversation to have with your customer, and it's gonna. I don't think we're going to see this law pass. Like I'm very candid. I'm so cynical at this point. Like I don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be cool. It'd be neat.
No, it's a good conversation to have, and it's a good to me. It's a good thing to bring awareness to, even if it never happens, man. A lot of and JB, no offense, Indy, no offense, you guys could be part of the exception, but a lot of carriers they don't dig into this type of stuff, man. This journalism for the industry. A lot of them don't hear about stuff till it's too late. I'll use this example right here. As of January 1st, 2004, carriers, you can no longer access your FMCSA portal from the FMCSA portal website. You have to have a login.gov. How many carriers do you think just heard that for the first damn time? So, to me, even though it may not pass, it's a good thing to talk about, man, and to bring awareness to, because obviously there's people lobbying for this to happen, and the other side is obviously going to whoop their chance to go against it. So I don't think it'll pass either, Matt. Like I really don't, man. Like this is an extreme. Maybe I could see maybe a compromise and say a $2 million policy,
and that would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Or an umbrella policy, like you said, or a rider, whatever you want to call it. Hey,
right,
your cargo can stay $1 million or whatever, but you've got to have an indemnity or whatever the phrase was, Matt, an umbrella policy that is $2 million or $3 million that specifically is for this issue.
Yeah, and umbrella policies, they only get triggered if you've maxed out your underlying policy. So the umbrella, but buying an insurance policy like $4 million versus buying $1 million and a $3 million umbrella, it's much cheaper to buy the policy and the umbrella than it is to buy one giant package. And I think that would be an interesting compromise. And, we got to throw Reliance Partners a bone. The Reliance Partners need you to get more insurance. Like all the insurance companies, like, would you please think of the shareholders for those poor insurance companies? They
are struggling. Matt, can I ask a couple of questions? The one is MCS 90. When does that come into play? I know that's if I understand it, if the carrier doesn't have enough to cover whatever happens to the public in a major accident, the insurer, they have their MCS 90 endorsement on the policy.
So I don't know enough about that. Like the way that a typical insurance policy would function is once it's exhausted, that's it. The insurance company's off the hook. They're not involved with anything further other than the duty to defend, like to be in court and protect you. That has no limitation. That can be millions of dollars defending somebody that the insurance company eats. But the overall liability the insurance company would ever face is the amount of the policy limit. That's it. And so once the policy is exhausted, the insurance company says, well, good luck. We did the best we could. Have fun. But to your specific question, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey guys, I gotta take off. So enjoy the rest of your podcast, man.
Oh, thank you, cowboy.
Jesus.
I know.
See you there, Matthew.
Good to see
Hey,
you,
be
sir.
on the lookout for your obituary for your mustache.
Looks like
Have
he's
fun
growing
when
it
you
back.
find it. Let me know.
Oh man, later. Hey, Indy,
Hey,
brother, we haven't heard from you at all, man. I don't know if you have anything you want to say on this, man.
He said he was
or-
having
Oh
some
yeah,
technical
I got
difficulties.
I got plenty to say on it. I think because I've never worked. Coming from a 911 fire EMS background before I got in the truck, and then just I'm very observant about everything, right? So would you say it's a fair statement to say that if every corporation and every company complied to the letter of the law as all the regulations are written right now, there would be a whole lot less companies out here because they couldn't afford. And I'm talking about
absolutely.
OSHA. I'm talking about the Food Safety Modernization Act. I'm talking about DOT regulations. If every company actually did it, there wouldn't be no need for lawyers, right? There wouldn't be no mega suits. There wouldn't be no. So
You'd still have catastrophic things, and you have mergers and acquisitions. There's plenty of. Don't worry about us lawyers. We're always going to find plenty of work.
Ain't that the
there's
truth?
not a there's not a corporation out there or a company out there that I've ever seen that's been proactive on any issue. It's always reactionary. Any kind of policy that they set forth is because something happened, they got caught, they got smacked. And you can go in and say, hey, maybe it's a good idea that we implement this policy to save us some money in the future. And some C-level suite executive's going to hear that and think, oh yeah, then look at the balance sheet and go, oh well, I might not get a promotion, so I'm not gonna recommend that. And of course, it gets swept under the rug for how many years they get by with it. Then boom, the next thing you know, nuclear verdict.
It's that if the cost of compliance is more than the cost you'd have for getting a fee for doing that, you take the fee because compliance is expensive. A great point with the Department of Labor coming out the new standard for classification. Like the ATA is like up in arms, like this is the end of the world. When the reality is like that's the test that's been going on for decades. Like there's nothing new about it. But to your point, like I think people try to comply as best they can. There are some that will they'll go right on the line of what's legal and illegal, and sometimes there's ambiguity there too. But there's a lot of interesting things that happen in that space.
And let's not shy away from it. The trucking industry is pretty shady in itself, especially when it comes to like the 1099 independent contractors. So it would be nice to see everybody be on a straight and narrow path when it comes to that.
Well, that's a great point. I mean, the reality of like classification litigation is bet the farm litigation. There's no insurance policy you could ever buy that can protect you from misclassifying somebody. And if you misclassify, back wages, back overtime, benefits, workers' comp, all these things come cascading into you. And that's why like AB5 was so viciously fought, even though AB5 was just taking what was already the law in California and putting it into paper. And people were like, that's crazy. But again, the whole point of misclassification is the lawsuits that we see is not the government saying you did something wrong. It's almost always, hey, I thought I was a contractor, but I looked at the law and I talked to a lawyer and they say I was misclassified. I'm actually supposed to be an employee. And then the former contractor sues, and they're either stated as an employee or they're stated as a contractor based on like how that relationship functioned. It's really interesting.
Matt, if you were an author, you could write like your own damn encyclopedia series, dude. Like, I'm serious, bro. We would get a new issue every month for the rest of our lives, and then we would die, and then our children and grandchildren would get the remaining issues that Matt wrote.
One of my great pleasures in this business is talking to anybody who has a question about something that I may know something about. Like you'll find me on Reddit talking to truckers or talking to brokers about different things, like privately in messages or on Twitter. This industry and just generally is very confusing, and it's designed to be confusing. And if I can help someone understand, like, hey, Matt, why is IKEA suing Convoy for interpleader in Northern District of Illinois? It's like, oh yeah, let's talk about that thing. That's amazing. I love this business. Like my father was a roadway guy back in '76. Like my grandpa had his own trucking company. Like I love what you guys do. I participate. I'm none of those things other than a trailer leasing guy from time to time. But yeah, I appreciate those kind words.
But Matt, but you're a value to all of us. You are, brother. Just the one thing that I really actually I love about logistics is the people that are in this industry that are not in logistics at all for a lack of, for their main thing, man. People who just want to be involved and interested, man. Chris is one of them, and you're another one. And y'all have information that we can't easily access. All the stuff that you just answered today so far, how much do we think? Well, no, we're only at about an hour, but what would be the fee to just go sit in a lawyer's office and with this list of questions and say, here you go, answer this.
My door rate's $400 an hour. The reality is,
you should have asked them that. We're gonna get the invoice right after.
Wait a second. Hold up. How much is your retainer first?
I don't charge retainers. I only work with people
don't?
that I trust. Only people I trust. Like I don't take on new clients. But like to answer that question, so I am a lawyer. My law firm that I own is called Armchair Attorney LLC. I have malpractice. I do that thing. I have a couple of clients, but that's my side gig. Like that's my passion. I do that for fun. My full-time career is I am the vice president of sales and marketing for a trailer leasing company called CLC. We operate 18,000 trailers across North America, and I love trailers. I've loved trailers since the day I was a little kid. And to talk to a lawyer about this stuff, whether I'm talking to reporters or talking to other people like this, it's a passion. Like I want you to understand that this industry and the law isn't this magical thing. Like you can peel back the veil and go, oh, it's just these massive lobbyists that want these outcomes and they're going to fight tooth and nail to get it. And if we understand what's happening, it helps us understand where we're going to be going. And I love doing it.
And Matt, to touch on why, or to touch on what you just said, is the reason people like you are valued to me is that a lot of folks are intimidated by stuff like this. This topic tonight, man, like this is an intimidating thing to talk about, and because it's like, hey, like I really can't do anything about this as a small broker or carrier. This is just, it's going to be what it's going to be. The only thing that I can do is understand it and prepare myself for it, and it kind of goes into the compliance thing you're talking about. Same thing. It's just a very intimidating thing for a lot of folks in our industry to deal with because there's so much legal jargon and layers to the onion to peel back to get down to what you need to know.
Let me just be contrarian for a second there. There is so much that you can do. You have a platform. So like, don't put yourself down. Like the fact that you can call a congressman or send a letter, they look, they care, they watch. You have a ton of power to advocate for outcomes that you want. There's no doubt about that. And I do say that, like, I don't like the idea of government forcing you to buy something. Like fundamentally, the government's saying, we want you to buy something. And you're like, who are you to tell me what I have to buy? Fuck you. I don't want to buy it. But then you start looking, okay, well, I see there's survivors of catastrophic accidents. They have issues, and there's a lot of competing things. The most important thing for any political topic, in my opinion, is there are reasonable people on both sides. Like no one's a villain. No one's the bad guy. Everybody is just trying to get through. And in some cases, they're lobbying for certain outcomes, but there are reasonable positions for literally any topic. And I just try my best to understand both sides so that I can communicate them in a way that is understandable.
Man, I'm telling you, brother, I'm going to send you some applications for some infomercial openings. I'm going to be your agent, man.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Medium-Sized Dogs. Medium-Sized Dogs. Ask for them by name. Great. That's the new sponsor.
Medium-sized dogs.
Man, Matt is an absolute trip. Does anyone have any additional topics they want to bring to light? Any further I don't know, I can't think of the word now. Yeah, shine further light on this or something else we've talked about? Hunter, Chris, JB, Matt.
Yeah,
I have one I'd like to do before I jump out of here.
Yeah.
But I saw JB first, so he should go first.
What do you mind going over the new 6 guidelines or tests or whatever on the 1099?
The economic realities test?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
gosh.
dumb whatever it is.
All right, let me pull them up and I'll memorize these things. Like it might appear that I do, but I do not.
Look, I read those things, like the explanations, like 10 times today. So I really hate the jargon.
JB, this is why you need to get on LinkedIn, bro. Cephas. Like I'm telling you, man, like this, Matt, Chris, like this is where we find all these people, man. Like LinkedIn is where you need to be at, man. Sorry, Matt.
I could use a new lawyer.
I'm going to walk you through the 6 ones, and we're not going to cover the additional factors one. That one is something we don't need. That's a separate one. So the opportunity for profit or loss depending on managerial skill. What that one means, and you actually talked about JB earlier, like can a motor carrier be profitable or not profitable? That's a decision you make. Like if you drive slower, you save money on fuel. Like you can actually make yourself profitable or unprofitable. If you have absolutely no control over how profitable you are as a business, then you're going to fail that first prong. But that first one is all about, can your ability as a leader, as a manager, make your company profitable or unprofitable? And that is what you can say as an owner operator. Absolutely, you can prove that you have the control over the ability to be profitable or not profitable. Yep. The next one is investments by the worker and the employer. So investments, what's an investment? Paying your lease. If you're an owner operator and you have a lease truck, you're paying that lease. That is you actually contributing to the success of the business. So the example I use for people to understand is like, let's say you're a roofing company and you hire a bunch of 1099s as your workers and you supply all the gear, you supply the uniforms, and they have no control, but they're a 1099. You probably misclassified somebody. And so that's what the investment is. Like, are you actually contributing to your business? The degree of permanence of the work. This is number 3. What does permanence of the work look like? It looks kind of like, okay, I'm your client. I'll be your customer. We're going to work together for 1 year. When the year's up, I can go somewhere else. If you are working for somebody exclusively for a long period of time and you have no ability to take on other potential work, that is that permanent relationship. The more permanent a relationship appears, the more likely you are to be a employee. If it's not permanent, if it's more like, you do the work when you need the work done, that is going to be much more in speed of being a contractor. The next one is
a caveat to that.
Yeah, go for it.
What if they, for instance, I have owner operators here that are 1099. What if they like working here and they want to re-up a contract every year? Would that be acceptable as long as it ends at some point and starts back up?
Yeah, and again, like I don't think that, and let me also cage it this way: the economic realities test, no single prong is the one that wins. Like they're all kind of equally measurable.
Yeah, they're all factors.
So the fact that it's a year to year, and again, I would consult an attorney. This is not legal advice, but the fact that there is the ability to renegotiate and renew, and they can go work somewhere else, like the lack of permanency is the important piece. Where they can take their stuff and go play with somebody else. There was a case, I believe it was Knight Swift, I could be wrong, in the 7th Circuit a couple years ago, where Knight or whoever the hiring entity was said you can't work with the competitors. So the owner operator is like, I want to go work with somebody else, and they're like, you can't. You need our approval to do that. So that's number 3. Number 4 is probably the most important in my mind. This is the one that also is what AB 5 is all about: the control. What kind of control do you have to perform the work? And all that means is like, can you choose your route? Can you choose your speed? Can you choose when you sleep and when you wake up? Like, what is the control that's there? Because if I hire a graphic designer and I say, you must work only from this window to this window, it's a little bit different than like, hey, go do this thing, and when you're done, give me the product. So that's what the control aspect is like, how much does the hiring entity control what that person does? This last one, number 5, not last, second to last, number 5. This is the one that gets every motor carrier really, really concerned. Number 5 is the extent to which the work performed is an integral part of the employer's business. The best example I can give is I'll look at my old business of repair and maintenance. I had a bunch of mechanics. They were all working for me as W-2s. I had competitors that classified every one of their mechanics as a 1099 independent contractor. So it's a maintenance company with no mechanics. They're all contractors. They can be so much cheaper than me because they don't have to pay benefits or time off or workers' compensation, and they are integral to that company's business. I guarantee you that competitor of mine was breaking the law. Like, they were taking somebody who was their entire business and saying, oh, no, they're actually a contractor. FedEx Ground is the most sophisticated entity that's ever existed when it comes to classification of workers. They come to your house. They have a FedEx Ground logo. They have a FedEx Ground truck, and they are absolutely 100% not employees of FedEx. They are contractors. So that level of integral to the business, what kills motor carriers in that number 5 is I am a motor carrier. I have company drivers and I have 1099s. And they're out there running in California. Are they workers or are they contractors? That's what number 5 is. Number 6, this is skill and initiative. I don't know what that means. What it generally means, like, is there skill to doing the project that they're doing? Are they just laborers who you're calling 1099s, or is there some skill that they have specialized that you're bringing in? The best example for that, in my opinion, is you're a general contractor and you have a plumber that you like to use. That plumber's not your employee. That's a special skill that you bring on when you need it. You don't hire the plumber to be there every day. You hire the plumber to come in and do his thing. And you tell him, go away when you're done. So those are the 6 prongs of the economic reality test. There's an amazing case. The Freightways had an article about a while back around XPO and a bunch of drivers who were classified as contractors who sued XPO saying you did it wrong. They did the economic realities test. The fact that the drivers were paying on their own leases was pretty much the determinative factor. And they said, you're contractors, get out of here. So this test, that economic realities test, is the most common test used in every federal court across the United States under the Fair Labor Standards Act. It is not a new test. It is a very generally employer-friendly test. It's not a worker-friendly test, but it's kind of like in the middle. AB5, the ABC test, that is very pro-worker, pro-employee. Does that help? I hope it does.
It does. I have a couple questions to follow up on. Number 4, I know I read somewhere in there that it talked about electronics. Wouldn't ELDs fall into that category?
So ELDs are federally mandated. You're not, the employer doesn't, like, it's not them to say you must do this. It's the feds telling you that you have to do it. So that's not necessarily a control aspect of it. The control more is like, you must wear this uniform. You must say these things. It's really like big on like, how do you conduct yourself as you work with them? The best example for that one is drayage operators. If your entire day is you go here and you go there and you come back and then you go there, and that's all you're going to do every single day, that level of control can be problematic.
Okay. And then number 5, I want to use my company as an example. So I have owner operators on here that pay me a flat fee to go out and do whatever they want. They can go get their own customers, their own business, work for this broker, that broker, whatever. I'm the only one truck operation for JB Roads. But since the owner operators outweigh the one single truck here, and I constantly run and work for myself, they're not really an integral part of my business. They're just run alongside me, basically. How would that work, do you think?
This is the most controversial and difficult one for our industry. The idea that you would hire somebody who does the same thing that you do, but you call them a contractor, is problematic. Now, what I would emphasize is obviously you want to talk to a lawyer in your jurisdiction where you operate to confirm this is how to understand it. But generally speaking, none of those 6 points by themselves is enough to make someone an employee. It's a totality of all of those. So if one of them you're not great with, but the other ones you're great with, you're probably going to be fine. But you still would want to talk to another entity. And I would say it's important. This is not legal advice, but just generally good business advice. Owner operators should have incorporated businesses. They should have LLCs or S corps or some corporate structure so you can confidently say it's a business. If it's a 1099, it's an individual 1099 person. That can be challenging, and that can be something you don't necessarily want to risk because, as I mentioned before, these claims happen when someone sues and you have to go to court. Those litigations can be $20,000 to $30,000 a month, and you cannot use insurance to pay for it. So if you misclassify and someone sues you, you're paying out of pocket until some resolution is made or you make a settlement, and that is not a good outcome for anybody.
The last one, the AB5 law. I heard someone say that there's a workaround in California, if long as the owner operators would make themselves an LLC and then pay themselves as an actual W-2 employee, that was the workaround for AB5.
The most, that's an interesting way to do it. It might work. I'll say this about AB5. AB5 has a presumption, a rebuttable presumption that the person who is a worker is an employee. And it's up to the hiring entity to prove in court that they are not an employee. That's a totally different calculus. The most common way that I have heard people circumventing AB5 is to have the hiring entity, whatever that company is, make the driver a W-2 and then pay for access to that truck. So lease the truck from the owner operator. So you get paid twice. That's one workaround that's out there. If you are a motor carrier and you're in California, you need to get a labor attorney in California, because like I know California. I had mechanics in California, and I know just enough to say you should get a California attorney. It's a different world. It's a different world. And once you get in that litigation, it is really hard to get out of it.
I gotta interrupt. Sorry, I gotta get out of here. Matt, it's awesome listening to you. Everybody's right. Whatever you talk about is just riveting, even if it's legal stuff. So
I appreciate that.
It's the best. JB, good to meet you.
Right,
Robert
Chris.
Hunter, see you guys
See you,
later.
Chris.
Have a good day.
Matt, we'll let you get to, if you remember what you wanted your closing
Absolutely.
point to be.
The thing I want to talk about now, and we talked about this, I think maybe at some point, like the question I keep asking is, why isn't Convoy in bankruptcy? And they're not in bankruptcy. Convoy, the freight broker who raised $1 billion and then was valued at $3.5 billion, they never went into bankruptcy, not yet. What I saw happen on January 2nd of 2024 was a lawsuit of IKEA suing Convoy and every single motor carrier and factoring company that was involved in the transportation of IKEA's goods that were brokered by Convoy. It's something like $500,000 some odd dollars, maybe $519,244, something like that. And what happened in this case was IKEA said, we know that we have to pay somebody this money, but we don't know who it's going to be. We know that the broker Convoy is winding down. If we pay them, maybe they're not going to pay the motor carriers. So they sued the thing called interpleader. And interpleader is like, if you like Pokemon, right? Pokemon are great little creatures. It's like a shiny Pokemon. It's a very rare Pokemon to have an interpleader complaint. And what has happened in this case, and no one's reporting, which is amazing. I've been talking about it on Reddit and other places because people are like, I didn't hear about this. But what's happened is IKEA took this big pile of money and put it into the court and said, court, you figure out who gets this money. So over 50 motor carriers and some factoring companies were dragged into a lawsuit in the Northern District of Illinois. For those motor carriers to respond to that lawsuit, it'll cost them $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. So whatever money they were owed, they're probably going to spend it potentially on the actual lawyers to fight this case against IKEA. And it's mesmerizing. This is what happens when good brokers go bad, is they don't pay their bills, and all the motor carriers who have been waiting because they safely delivered the freight on time and undamaged, they're not paid. And it's just really sad to see what happens when these events take place. So that's a case that I think is really interesting. I like talking about it because it's very rare you see a federal interpleader lawsuit, and we see it with IKEA.
I don't even know what that is.
Dude, I was on the edge of my seat listening to you. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Imagine.
Did I haul an IKEA load? I'm like,
I mean, it's so mind numbing. This company took all this investor capital. They burned it. They subsidized the rates. They had all this other stuff. And then they start winding down. Now, here's the thing I'll leave you guys with before I have to go and help my wife with the dinner and the babies. Why isn't Convoy in bankruptcy? I think I know why. In October of 2023, Convoy says we're winding down. On November 1st of 2023, it's announced that Convoy had sold the technology backbone, including the CEO going over to Flexport. Now, Flexport has Convoy's technology backbone. In the United States, we have a thing called the bankruptcy code, and bankruptcy code is how you do bankruptcies. And the way the code works is if you file for bankruptcy, they assume legally that you've been bankrupt for 90 days. The last 3 months, you were bankrupt. Anybody you paid, any deals that you've done, we're going to look at those and we're going to say, was this a fraudulent conveyance? Did you give somebody something you shouldn't have done? On January 30th of 2024, 90 days will have elapsed from the Flexport deal. I believe that the only reason Convoy has not gone into bankruptcy is they are trying their best to not let that deal with Flexport get unwound. Because if they did, if it filed before the 90 days, that deal can be looked at, and then people can say, I bet you I could auction that for more than Flexport was willing to pay. And it's diabolical what they're doing. And there are no people, because you can force someone into bankruptcy. You can take a bunch of motor carriers who were not been paid by Convoy, and they can force Convoy into bankruptcy, and they can unwind that deal. But there's only a couple of weeks left, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Man,
What a scandal. That is crazy.
It's wild. It's wild.
and you want to know who's behind all of this in the end? Matt's brethren. That's who. That's who. That's who.
We are simply fiduciaries. That's the thing I would love to leave with. As a lawyer, we are fiduciaries. So we have to put our interest to the side and put our client's interest forward. And so if that means you have to do things that are difficult to do, that's what you do. Before I defended trucking companies, I defended chemical manufacturers. Like, I know all about what happens in the world of personal injury, but we'll watch this case unfold. And when it's all said and done, we're going to look back and go, 2023 saw the death of Convoy and the death of Yellow. And that's really interesting.
That is really interesting, man. Last year was a crazy year. On one of our final shows, I did a snippet of all the major companies that have gone out of business this year and how long they were in business. And, none of the 2-3 year ones are getting any coverage, whatever. But man, people like Yellow and Meadowlark and all, dude, we're talking decades of people being in business and just shuttered the doors, man.
Can I tell you a story about Yellow?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the last thing I promise, and I have to go. So I was on a conference call a couple of months ago, back, I can't remember, June or July, and it was a hearing. And what the hearing was about was Yellow had failed to pay the Central State Fund $50 million. And that fund was the health insurance for everybody from Yellow and from USF Holland. 11,000 families were going to lose their health insurance because Yellow failed to pay $50 million. And what the Teamsters said was, we are striking because you did not make that payment. Mm-hmm. And Yellow went to court. They went to federal court, and they asked the court to give an injunction, an order, telling the Teamsters, you are not allowed to strike. And I am listening to the hearing. I'm dialed in. I'm hearing all about it. And what happens is the lawyer for Yellow says, Your Honor, if they strike on Monday, we're bankrupt on Friday. That was the story. And they begged the judge, please don't allow them to strike. And the judge said, go pound sand. If they want to strike, they get to strike. But over the weekend, the Teamsters and the Central State Fund made a deal. They extended the payment by 30 days, giving Yellow precious breathing time. But it wasn't enough. What Yellow wanted to do all along was consolidate their network. They wanted to do this thing called One Yellow. Let's take all the terminals. Let's make them make sense. Let's close things down. And the Teamsters said, no, we're not going to do it. We as American taxpayers gave Yellow $700 million. In exchange for that, the U.S. Treasury took a 30% stake in the business. And now we're looking back and going, wait a second. Yellow had a lot of really cool real estate. They had a lot of money, and they knew this. They knew that they had the money. But at the end of the day, they got into a liquidity problem, just like Convoy. They couldn't get access to money. And when it was all said and done, Yellow had to go into bankruptcy. And it's the story of one of the greatest successes and failures of transportation. 99 years before containerization, before highways, before ELDs, Yellow was moving freight. And that's amazing. Yellow was 1924. Roadway was 1930. A legacy, an era of our industry. You couldn't move freight safely across the country without having unionized mechanics, workers, and drivers and dock workers. And now that time in our society is over. It's gone.
all because they didn't want to pay for your child to get that inhaler.
They had $100 million cash on hand. If they would have paid that first payment, the next one for the next month would have bankrupted them. They were going to try their best to find someone to come and save them. But there was no one who wanted to come in and say, I want to buy a Union Motor Carrier. I mean, there's only so many TFIs out there, and TFI already bought UPS Freight, and they were pretty happy with what they had. It's wild. It's wild.
Before you go, I'll say, and I know this is going to reverberate with everybody, but the sickening part about both of these examples, Yellow and Convoy, is the people at the bottom got diddly shit. All these CEOs and all these other ones walked out with massive paydays, but they don't have money to pay carriers. They don't have money to pay their employees, but man, I've got five stacks over here to go give to Jimmy, for him to walk out the door and go play in his Rolls Royce in the parking lot. So yeah, that's the crappy thing. And like I said, the other part of that is the American taxpayers had to fund it.
That's right. That's right. TFI bought UPS Freight for $800 million. $800 million. And we gave Yellow $700 million. And what did we get for it? Nothing.
Man. I'm going to claim that. I'm going to claim that on my taxes as an expense this year. I'm going to do the math, man. Just 700 million divided by the U.S. population, right off.
Well, I appreciate you letting me jump on with such short notice. It's a pleasure to be here, guys. If I can ever be a resource, let me know. You find a case you're like, that looks weird, shoot me a note. I'm happy to jump on.
Give you a stack of case studies.
Get them on here more. I
just get bored. Man, what's this about?
I mean,
just don't sue me, bro.
I used to sue customers. I loved doing it. I loved it. They don't want to pay me. Oh, like I remember. Okay, one last story. I was working with a refuse company in Chicago, and they owed me $6,500. And I said, "You need to pay me $6,500." And they said, "We're not going to pay you $6,500." And I said, "Well, I'm going to sue you for $6,500." And they said, you're not going to sue me for $6,500. And then I sued them for $6,500. And our very first court appearance was December 24th, the day before Christmas Eve. And they said, "Matt, how do we make this lawsuit go away?" And I said, "You could wire me $6,500. And they said, "Can we send you a check for $6,500? And I said, "No. You can wire me $6,500. And at the end of the day, would you believe it? They wired me $6,500. It was a great time.
Yeah, Matt, you should have
more to fight that than anything.
Well, my contracts have attorney shifting. Like I can charge my labor rate to them. I said, I'll waive my fees, but you have to give me my money. And then they gave me my money. And that was fine. That's all I wanted was my money.
Brother, you have a wonderful night. Dude, we'll catch you on LinkedIn, man. We'll
see you in a couple weeks, actually. I think we got coming on the 3rd.
Put me in the game, coach. All right, you guys have a great day. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Matt.
Later, Matt. All right.
Oh, what a guy.
So we're going to chop out this piece here in a second. We appreciate everyone that was watching. I hope that y'all got something out of this. If you didn't, then you really weren't paying attention. We had an incredible panel of people on, JB, Matt Leffler, who just left. That guy is just a plethora of knowledge, loves talking about stuff. I mean, y'all saw he helped JB live on the show. So if you didn't watch the whole thing, go back and watch. A lot of great information was put out about insurance and laws and stuff revolving around carriers and brokers. Just a really, really good amount of educational, informative topics. With that said, I want to piggyback off of one of Matt's 15 closing comments. He was talking about having access to your money. In this day and age of people going bankrupt, not having capital, not being able to get access to their money, you got to have yourself a trusted partner that has your best interest at heart, is going to help you to succeed because they know through your success ultimately comes their success. Shoreline Capital is that partner.
You're
get that
good at
capital,
those transitions, bro.
I-
I love it. That was a segue. I was with it.
to get access to that capital, whether you're a broker or a carrier, even a shipper, you got to have access to accurate, real-time, up-to-date freight market data, information, rates, reports, all the stuff that you need to make the correct financial decision when you go to move your freight. We are proud to be the first sponsor and help launch lanerunner.com. Make sure y'all go over there, take advantage of that free trial, and as always, tell them you heard about it in the Logistics Lounge.
Welcome to the future of trucking with Lane Runner. Up to the minute, trustworthy spot market freight rates. Experience real time, full truckload spot market rates at your fingertips. Stay ahead with our advanced rate alert system, ensuring you never miss a market move. Gain insights with our detailed high and low paying lane reports. Make informed decisions with comprehensive market reports tailored for your business needs. Lane Runner, accurate, real-time spot market freight rates at your fingertips. Efficiency, reliability, and profitability all in one platform. Join Lane Runner today and take your logistics to the next level. Spot market, spot on.
Yay, yay. Mr. Rhodes, do you have any closing commentary?
Oh man, you got to have him on more. Like, I know it seemed like I was a little bit confrontational with him, but I actually you need that in-depth and insight when it comes to like hot button topics like that, especially when it comes to insurance, stuff like that, because he's looking at it from his perspective versus, there's three parties involved. There's the lawyers, there's carriers, and then there's the people, the four-wheelers that get hurt out here. Same thing with truckers, but it's nice to have that perspective all the way around and try to hit it from different angles. And then the 1099 stuff, I've kind of been stressing about it since I knew it was coming down the pipe, because you had AB5 last year and stuff, and you knew something else was coming, and really it's just something old, and it's nice to go over that and solidify it, because it's like, it's not just one thing, it's all factors are involved. So if you're good in 5 areas but not so good in 6, you'll probably be all right. But it's nice to have put my mind at ease just a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Man.
Oh yeah.
No,
that shit gets cluttered on the internet. It's good to hear it from the horse's mouth rather than 5 different people that you don't even know if it's true or not.
Exactly. And I've been searching the last few days, besides just reading the actual rule and the text in it, which lawyers can interpret that stuff because they're kind of like I don't know how to say it. Never mind. Language expert.
Yeah, language.
But they're language experts, so they can look at that and interpret it 5 different ways and get the outcome that you need. So it's nice to have that broken down and know exactly kind of what each one means, and then go back and forth with the examples just to make sure that I'm not, because the last thing I want to do is break any rules and break any laws, because it's done so much out here in trucking that I want to try to stay straight and narrow as much as possible.
Yeah, 100%, bro. And I don't think you're confrontational at all. I mean, I don't know why you would feel that way. I know Matt didn't either, but I'm glad you enjoyed being on, man. I've followed Matt for a while. We talked for a while, and he's just an all-around genuine guy. He has no hidden agenda. He gives it to you the way it is, and he's honest, dude. He tells you both sides of stuff, and that's why I said he is a great source of knowledge, because he's one of those people that he's really he is in this industry, but he's not. But he uses his experience from outside the industry to help us. Give us some clarification on things that matter. And look at that shit that he brought up at the end, dude. I guarantee you, nobody watching this has heard of that. Nobody.
Nope.
You know what I mean? And he's in the know. And I bet you he's right that come that 90-day mark, that's we're going to hear about stuff. So. We are. We have
excited
coming on. I think Hunter said on the 5th, dude, and we're gonna dig deep into him, man. That guy could talk all night. If he had time,
he loves it. He gets he geeks over this stuff, man. So yeah, you weren't confrontational at all. He wants to know more and more, but he knows so much. It's just a plethora of wealth of knowledge. So, but yeah, man, JB, I expect to see you on LinkedIn tonight. Okay,
yes, bro.
We're gonna get you connected with. I'm telling you, dude. We'll get you connected.
JB,
you'll start off on the right foot. Save you a lot of time.
I'm gonna tell you, man. LinkedIn, it is not like Facebook for the most part. Like, yeah, you get some little beef stuff and some back and forth, but dude, like I have learned so much from LinkedIn. It is ridiculous. I mean, just the people on there that you end up meeting that know stuff, man. It's great because hey, all the people that are real professionals, that's where they go to, man. They don't go to Facebook and talk about this stuff. They go to LinkedIn with other people who are educated in what they're doing. And I don't mean formal education, but the folks that know what they're talking about. So dude, go on LinkedIn. Let us know when you're on there. Hunter and I will friend you. And man, I'm telling you, you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference, dude.
All right, I'll get my wife to set it up. I'm kidding.
Hunter, do you have anything? Or actually, I'm sorry, Hunter. Kelly, it's okay that you were late. We just appreciate that you stopped by and listened to our ramblings.
Right.
Oh yeah, see, she said, there you go. Tell him to connect with me, dude. Kelly's none of those people. She's not in this industry, but man, she's on this side of this, and she loves learning about it and putting in her 2 cents and all that stuff, dude. So another example.
I feel like Kelly's an undercover dopest shipper of all time.
Yeah, right.
Probably has the best freight ever. She's just like, yeah, I do lawns.
Yeah, right. I know that's right. Oh, Hunter, you got anything you want to say before we chop out, homie?
Yeah, good show, man. I'm excited to get Matt on. JB, you need to pop in more, brother. There's the red light right there. But yeah, man, get on LinkedIn, get on X or Twitter if you're not already. That's a big spot for truckers and brokers.
I'm on there, but I need to create an official JB Rhodes.
Yeah, dude. We're making some big moves over there as well. So, like Rob Knott said, man, everybody that we've talked to here is in the loop and on our side, and bro, we'll get you hooked up, and then you can bring us some people to know.
Even that
it's
guy,
fun. It's fun.
I don't know nobody.
Indie trucker that was on earlier, JB, that dude's been doing this shit for over 2 decades, man. He has done so much. I think you've heard him talk, man. Even that guy, man, you heard he just started spitting out some shit. I was like, the hell is he even talking about? So, bro, dude, there's so many freaking people out there, dude, that you're missing not being on the other side of Facebook.
Yeah. Dude, we've only been doing this for 6 months, and we've known most of these people, but we've met most of these people just in the past 3 months. Really got in tight with them. So, yeah, everybody's a stranger on there. We just talk about freight and bullshit.
That's it.
Okay.
Just don't be negative. Don't be negative.
Yeah, we saw the effects of that yesterday. And matter of fact, when Hunter and I leave here, we're going to go watch the final effects of that. Dude, I'm going to tell you about it in private, bro. I'm not going to put it out there and dwell on it, but it was some really funny shit to see someone watch them as they collapsed their brand. Dude,
Rob, what if we did the video game guys and we did a live stream of their live stream and we just commentated?
Oh my god, that would actually be hilarious.
That would be funny.
Oh, okay, well we'll be doing that.
I don't know if we need to do that though. That might be a little overboard. We'll talk about it, but an idea.
Adam, what's up, dude? You missed the show. That's the guy Indie Trucker met.
The Cannabis King. Dude, Adam, we're getting you on the show at some point, man. I know I got you on next. We're bringing you over. Dude, hop on Friday. Hop on Freestyle Friday if you're free.
Yeah. And you too, JB. I don't know who. Hold on, I'm gonna look at the calendar and see who we got on Friday real fast. So, who is it?
Lineup.
Oh, dude, we got Nizreen. Oh, I'm actually excited about this one, dude. This lady runs a HHG load board. You know what? Household goods. She built a household goods load board. She taught herself everything about the industry and household goods. Just freaking amazing, dude. Even taught herself how to code so she could help build her own fucking load board, dude. Oh my god. And nobody talks about household goods, man. And I've never been in it personally, but dude, it's a pretty cool thing, man. I mean, it really is a lot of logistical stuff goes into packing someone up or packing a business up and even moving their ass 2 blocks down the road. So yeah, she's going to come on. She's going to drink with us and hang out. So dude, that'd be a cool one. JB, if you're interested in household goods, not professionally, but you ever had anything, dude, you want to chop in? We're going to hang out. I'll just hit you up Friday, and if you can come chill, dude, you know you're always welcome.
JB, you
Okay.
can come
We'll
in
see. We'll see how tomorrow
anytime,
goes.
dude. Anytime. You can come in tomorrow if you want to, bro.
Anytime. Even if you just want to air your grievances out there on the road, you do.
We'll stop the show.
Yeah.
We'll tell the guests to shut up and let you vent, and then we'll just go
Here's-
back.
Here's exactly what we'll do. Now presenting JB Rose. Boom.
No, we need
I'm tired of them lying-ass truck drivers.
Dude, we do need to make a new video for that, Rob. Like when someone randomly hops in, we'll just like a little 3-second clip.
That would be
Just
cool.
everybody shuts up and we can just be like, "Who's this?"
That would be cool, man.
Put them on blast.
I'm going to get out this piece. I really ain't got nothing to do, man. It's still it's only 5:45. Holy crap, that's nuts. Hunter, I will catch you up before we close. Oh, you got it. JB, let's go. Yeah. Dude, there you go, man.
Yeah, Adam's one of the guys we just met last week, dude.
Yeah. Dude, super cool, man. Super cool guy. But we're going to holler at y'all tomorrow. Tomorrow we have on
Verified Carrier.
Verified Carrier. Man, in the world that we live in right now in this industry, brokers and carriers, these guys and gals actually got some pretty cool stuff going on. It is definitely intricate. We'll just leave it at that. So make sure y'all hop in tomorrow at 4 p.m., 3:30, something like that, and watch Verified Carrier and tell us all about what they're doing to help stop fraud in this industry. With that said, and as I always say, chunk the deuces. Hunter.